AITA for refusing to babysit my nephew after what my sister did to my car. She and her husband even invited me to babysit her child on her husband's birthday. Okay, so this whole situation has me feeling like I'm living in some kind of alternate reality, and I honestly need to get it off my chest because I'm starting to question if I've completely lost the plot here. I 26 female have an older sister, she's 29, and she has a 4-year-old son. I absolutely adore my nephew. He's this sweet, energetic little kid who's obsessed with dinosaurs and thinks I'm the coolest person in the world just because I can name all the different kinds of trucks. I love spending time with him. What I do not love is how my sister has this unshakable belief that because I don't have kids of my own, I must just be sitting around doing nothing with my time, waiting to drop everything and be her free babysitter on demand. For the past year or so, she's been calling me up or texting me with these last-minute requests to watch her son. And when I say last minute, I mean she'll hit me up on a Friday afternoon asking if I can take him that evening because she and her husband want to go out. Or she'll swing by my place with him already buckled into his car seat and tell me she's double parked and running late for a doctor's appointment or a haircut or a much-needed break. And I've said yes a lot. Like, a lot. I've canceled plans, missed out on things I wanted to do, and rearranged my schedule more times than I can count because I genuinely care about my nephew and I want to help out. But at a certain point, it stopped feeling like I was helping and started feeling like I was being taken advantage of. So, last weekend, she texted me on Saturday afternoon asking if I could watch her son that evening. She said she and her husband were going out for a much-needed date night, and didn't want to bring him along. Thing is, I had already made plans with a few friends. We had this little get-together planned for over a week, just something low-key at a friend's apartment, drinks, movies, hanging out. Nothing wild, but something I was really looking forward to. I told her I couldn't do it, that I had plans, and suggested she ask one of our cousins or maybe look into a sitter. She didn't respond right away, and when she finally did, she just said she'd figure something out. I honestly didn't think much of it after that. I felt a little guilty, sure, but I reminded myself I'm not a backup parent and I'm allowed to have a life. Then came Sunday morning. I got up like normal, showered, got dressed, grabbed my bag and coffee, and headed outside to go to work. But when I got to my driveway, my car wasn't there. I just stood there staring at the empty space for a few seconds, completely stunned. At first I thought it had been towed. I live in an apartment complex with pretty strict parking rules, so maybe I parked wrong or something. But that didn't make sense because I always park in the same spot. Then I thought, oh my God, did someone steal it? I was literally about to call the police when I checked my phone and saw a text from my sister. It said, hey, took your car last night since you wouldn't help me out. Left it in your driveway, keys in the mailbox. No big deal. No. Big deal. I could not believe what I was reading. I was shaking, I was so angry. I rushed over to the mailbox, found my keys, and stormed over to where my car was now parked, crookedly, by the way, across the lot, 2 spots over from where I usually park. I opened the door and immediately regretted it. The inside of my car was disgusting. There were fast food wrappers stuffed into the cup holders, empty sauce containers on the floor, half of a spilled smoothie in the back seat, and what looked like melted gummy bears fused to my passenger seat. My nephew's car seat was still there, but it had a suspiciously sticky spot on the fabric. And the gas tank? Completely empty. The light was on. She had driven it until it was running on fumes. I called her immediately. I didn't even have time to fully process what I was going to say. I was so furious I just started yelling. I asked her how the hell she thought it was okay to steal my car, leave it in that condition, and act like she'd done nothing wrong. She was so unbelievably casual about it, like I was the one being unreasonable. She said she was desperate and didn't have any other options, and that since I wasn't helping her, she had to make do. I told her taking my car without my permission was theft. She brushed it off and said she had borrowed it, and that it wasn't a big deal. I asked her how she even got the keys, and that's when she admitted that she'd swiped them from my apartment when she came over a few days before, just in case she needed them. I was speechless. I told her I was done. Done babysitting, done doing her favors, done being her default childcare backup. I told her she needed to pay to have my car professionally cleaned and I wanted a real apology, not just some half-assed excuse. She hung up on me. Not even a minute later, I got a text from her husband, my brother-in-law, calling me selfish and immature, saying I clearly don't understand how hard it is to be a parent and how lucky I am to have freedom. He said they were doing their best and I should be more supportive as her sister. Then my parents got involved. They called me, saying I needed to show more compassion. That my sister is overwhelmed and struggling, and that family helps family. They told me I was blowing things out of proportion and that she probably just didn't realize how upset I'd be. I asked them how they'd feel if someone took their car without asking and returned it full of trash and empty of gas. My mom said, well, it's different, she's your sister. My dad said I was being a little dramatic. Now I'm just stuck. I've got half my family acting like I committed some great betrayal because I won't babysit anymore. My car still smells faintly of fried food, even after I cleaned it out myself because she hasn't offered to do anything about it. I haven't talked to my sister since the fight, and honestly, I don't want to. I feel completely disrespected, and I'm just so tired of being treated like a spare part in someone else's life. So, that's where I'm at. Am I the asshole for refusing to babysit anymore after my sister stole my car, trashed it, and then acted like I was the problem? Because the way everyone's acting, I'm starting to feel like I might be. Update 1. So, it's been a couple of weeks since the car incident, and I've been doing everything I can to stick to my boundaries. No babysitting, no favors, no last-minute emergencies, no acting like I'm on call 24/7 just because I happen to be child-free. And let me tell you, sticking to those boundaries has not gone over well with my sister, Amanda. Since the day she took my car without permission, trashed it, and then acted like I was the one being unreasonable, I've been firm. I reminded her calmly, over text and in person, that she still needed to pay for the car cleaning. I wasn't even asking for anything wild. Just the cost to get my interior professionally detailed because, to this day, there's still a faint smell of sweet and sour sauce and something vaguely fruity baked into the passenger seat. Every time I brought it up, she either ignored me entirely or responded with a vague, I'm figuring it out, as if it was some unsolvable equation instead of a simple matter of taking financial responsibility for something she did. But instead of owning up to it, Amanda leaned full force into guilt-tripping me. It started subtly. Little jabs in our family group chat. Comments like, wish I had as much free time as you, or, must be nice to only have to think about yourself. I ignored them. I wasn't about to get baited into an argument with someone who still hadn't even acknowledged that what she did was seriously wrong. Then it escalated. One afternoon, I was at work, where, for the record, I had made it explicitly clear that my personal life was off limits, and out of nowhere, Amanda showed up. Right outside my building, in broad daylight, holding my nephew's hand. She looked frazzled and exhausted, her hair was a mess, and she had this wild-eyed look that immediately put me on edge. Without so much as a hello, she launched into this frantic explanation about how she just needed me to watch him for an hour, just 1 hour, please. She was desperate, she had to run an errand and couldn't take him with her. She said it like it was nothing. Like she hadn't already completely shattered my trust and then gaslit me for being upset. I said no. Firmly. I reminded her again that we weren't in a place where she could just drop her kid off with me like nothing happened. Her face crumpled on the spot, and she pulled out the theatrics like she was performing on a stage. Full-on tears, voice cracking, clutching her son's hand dramatically while saying, I guess some people just don't believe in family anymore. I just turned and walked back inside. I felt like the villain in some poorly written drama, but I knew this was a performance meant to manipulate me, not a genuine moment of vulnerability. And honestly, I was starting to realize that this had been her go-to tactic all along, lean on guilt, rely on obligation, and assume I'd cave because that's what family does. But not anymore. Things escalated again when I found out that she'd been contacting my friends behind my back. I don't even know how many of them she reached out to, at least 3 that I know of. She messaged them asking if they'd talk to me, help her out, and remind me what's important. One of my closest friends forwarded me the message, and I felt my stomach turn reading it. She said I was being cruel and punishing a struggling mom, and that all she wanted was for people to have compassion. My friends were amazing. They all shut it down, hard. One of them told her that if she was so stressed, she needed to ask for real help, not manipulate her sister. Another flat out told her to stop trying to drag other people into her drama. But by that point, I was done. Completely done. No more gentle nudging, no more hoping she'd do the right thing. I pulled up the invoice from the auto detailer, $185, which, frankly, felt cheap for the disaster she left behind, and sent her a text. It was calm. Measured. No insults, no drama. I just told her she had 1 week to reimburse me for the cleaning or I'd consider filing a small claims court case. I told her this wasn't about family or feelings, it was about accountability. I told her I'd already given her plenty of chances to make this right. And I meant every word. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, and at the end of my rope. I'd spent too long letting her act like this kind of behavior was normal, like it was my job to enable her because of some unwritten rule about what sisters owe each other. Her response. A thumbs up emoji. Update 2. Last weekend, just when I thought this whole saga couldn't possibly spiral further into absurdity, I got a text from my brother-in-law, Greg. Now, let me preface this by saying Greg and I have never been especially close. He's always been kind of passive in that distant, performative husband way, cordial during holidays, quick with an awkward dad joke, but never the type to get involved in anything resembling family conflict. So when I got a message from him, I figured it was something serious. The text was brief and sounded, oddly hopeful. He said Amanda wanted to apologize and they were having what he called a casual little dinner at their place. Just a few people, low-key, nothing fancy. He said Amanda had been reflecting and really wanted to talk things through in person, maybe patch things up. Against my better judgment, I agreed. I'm not proud of it, but there was a part of me that still wanted things to be normal again. Amanda and I used to be really close. Growing up, we were inseparable. I was her built-in best friend, and for years, even after she had her son, I was the person she leaned on. And I missed that version of her. I missed having a sister I could trust. So when Greg said she wanted to apologize, I let my guard down. I thought, alright, maybe this is the olive branch. Maybe she's finally ready to take some accountability. I even went to the trouble of picking up a bottle of wine on the way over, something nice, something chilled, and wore something decent, thinking it was a dinner after all. I pulled up to their house, and as soon as I opened the front door, I realized something was off. For starters, there were balloons. A lot of them. People I didn't recognize were milling around with red Solo cups. There was music playing, and someone in the kitchen was lighting candles on a massive sheet cake. Before I even had a chance to ask what was going on, someone shouted, "Happy birthday, Greg," and the whole room erupted in cheers. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a quiet dinner. This was a surprise birthday party, for Greg. I stood frozen in the entryway, holding that stupid bottle of wine like an idiot, watching as Amanda came floating over to me with this infuriatingly smug little smile on her face. She gave me this overly sweet hug, full of fake warmth, and said, barely above a whisper, "You're already here, might as well just hang with him for a bit," gesturing toward the living room where my nephew was already seated on the floor surrounded by coloring books, plastic dinosaurs, and a tray of juice boxes. And that's when it clicked. This whole thing had been a setup. Amanda never wanted to apologize. There was no dinner. This was a trap. She knew I'd say no to babysitting again if she asked directly, so she orchestrated this elaborate ambush under the guise of reconciliation just to get me in the same room as her son, and away from the actual party. Everyone else was drinking, laughing, dancing, and there I was, the only person without a drink, strategically placed next to the kids' corner, with no actual kids but her son. No one even acknowledged me as part of the gathering. I was just background help. I didn't say a word. I didn't cause a scene. I just turned around, walked straight out the door, got in my car, and left. I didn't even text her. I figured that if this was how little she respected me, then there was absolutely no point in trying to talk to her like an adult. And I was done playing the role of the helpful little sister who always forgave, always made space, always absorbed the disrespect like it was just part of the deal. About an hour later, Greg texted me. No apology. No acknowledgement of the ambush. Just this condescending message telling me I was being cruel for walking out on my nephew and ruining the vibe of the party. As if my sole purpose for existing was to be the unpaid entertainment for their kid while they got plastered with their friends. As if my presence at their home was contingent on my willingness to provide free labor. That was it. That was the moment I hit my final wall. I pulled up the Venmo app and sent a request to both Amanda and Greg for $245, the exact quote I'd received from a professional auto detailer who said the gummy candy and mystery spill on the seats would require a full deep clean. I was done asking nicely. I was done reminding them. I was done giving them the benefit of the doubt. I added a note: you have 48 hours before I file in small claims. Update 3. A few days after I sent that Venmo request, I figured I was going to have to follow through with small claims court. Amanda didn't respond. Greg didn't respond. No passive-aggressive texts. No guilt-laced group chat messages. Just a strange, creeping silence that almost felt more ominous than their usual noise. I kept checking the app, not because I expected anything to happen, but because I wanted to mentally prepare myself for the follow-up I'd need to file. I was fully ready to go to court over $245, not because I needed the money, but because I needed to stand my ground. I needed the principle of it to mean something. Then, out of nowhere, I got an email. Amanda doesn't email. Not for anything. Seeing her name pop up in my inbox was surreal. The entire message was 3 sentences long: fine. You win. Check your account. We're done. That was it. No greeting, no sign-off. Just bitterness poured into 3 clipped sentences like it physically hurt her to admit defeat. I opened Venmo and sure enough, she had sent me $500. Not the $245 I had asked for, double that. No message attached, no emoji, no sarcastic comment in the payment description, just $500 and silence. It was so anticlimactic I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because after everything, the gaslighting, the guilt-tripping, the ambush birthday party babysitting setup, that was how it ended. Not with an apology, not with accountability, but with a passive-aggressive cash dump and a digital mic drop. A couple of days later, I ran into one of our mutual cousins at a family friend's birthday party. She pulled me aside and gave me the full backstory. Apparently, Amanda's mother-in-law had found out about the car situation. Not through Amanda, but through Greg's sister, who had been at the birthday party and saw the whole thing unravel. She'd watched me walk in, saw Amanda guide me straight to the pile of coloring books, and immediately knew something was off. She mentioned it to their mother, who then connected the dots and confronted both Amanda and Greg the following day. From what I was told, the woman went full scorched earth on them. She told Amanda and Greg in no uncertain terms that what they'd done was beyond inappropriate. She said if they needed child care so badly, they needed to plan for it, budget for it, and stop treating their relatives like unpaid staff. She apparently used the phrase, treating family like servants, which, frankly, hit the nail on the head. The irony of that entire family helps family speech Amanda had thrown at me, only to get a reality check from her own in-laws, was not lost on me. According to our cousin, Amanda was mortified. She didn't deny what happened, there was nothing to deny at that point, but she was embarrassed it had gotten around. That embarrassment, it seemed, is what motivated the extra $255 she sent. It wasn't remorse. It was damage control. A parting shot of pride. If she could buy my silence, she figured she could at least retain some shred of dignity. Joke's on her though, I didn't need to broadcast it. I already had peace. As for the money, I took it as a victory. Not in the petty, I won the battle sense, but as confirmation that my time does, in fact, have value. That saying no had weight. I booked myself a full spa day, facial, massage, sauna, the works. I let them talk me into an absurd add-on package and didn't flinch when I saw the final bill. I bought a bottle of wine that cost more than any wine I've ever allowed myself to touch before. I didn't save the receipt. I didn't second-guess it. I just sat on my balcony that night with a plush robe, sipping the most expensive sip of clarity I've ever tasted. I haven't spoken to Amanda or Greg since. There have been no texts, no awkward, hey, let's talk, messages, no invitations to family events. Nothing. And it's been blissfully quiet. My nephew is still someone I love deeply. That hasn't changed. But I've realized that loving him doesn't mean I have to be complicit in the way his parents treat people. I can be his aunt without allowing myself to be walked over. I can care about his well-being without sacrificing my own boundaries to appease adults who don't respect them. My parents eventually stopped with their, be more compassionate, speeches too. I think it finally sank in when I showed them the photos of the car's interior, sticky residue, crushed wrappers, mystery stains. When I explained how Amanda had taken my keys from my apartment days in advance, they both got quiet. My mom mumbled something about how she really shouldn't have done that, and my dad gave me that tight-lipped, nodding silence that parents give when they finally realize they were defending the wrong person. They haven't brought it up since. What I've taken away from this entire mess is something I wish I'd learned years ago. Boundaries are not punishments. They're not weapons. They're necessary, even when they make other people uncomfortable. Especially then. I spent years convincing myself that saying no would make me a bad sister, a bad aunt, a selfish person. But the truth is, letting people use you doesn't make you good. It just makes you exhausted. So, yes, I love my nephew. Yes, I'll always be in his life if he wants me there. But I won't set myself on fire to keep other people warm. I'm no one's free babysitter, no one's fallback, and no one's emotional punching bag just because I don't have kids of my own. Moral of the story: setting boundaries isn't selfish. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself and your family is say no.